that we want people to understand. Once upon a time, someone used a human to tell a story that had been told about animals. So it was in the anthropomorphic form what actually happened. Now we have to go from culture to culture to figure it out. In other words, it's not going to come to us because we studied what Sam said at the local, plantation institution. It's not going to come to us. We got to do some real reading to get to this. But what I'm getting at is yes.
So would that be a story like the serpent in the garden?
It can be. Now, in this case, the serpent in the garden, is this the Garden of Eden? we must understand that this is a story in anthropomorphic form, whereas the snake in the story of the Garden of Eden is actually the character that takes anthropomorphic form. In other words, let's say we're going to tell a story about a human dynamic, but instead of using a human character, we use the snake being symbolic for the character. See, really what we're discussing here, and I know some of us are having some problems inside right now. What? But it's okay. You got to get through it. You got to go through it and get over it. But when you really understand how this takes place over a period of time, like that snake, what did the snake say now?
Go ahead. So Eve, go ahead. It's okay.
So the snake was talking. Right. So the snake must have been behaving, right. So now what you have is a symbol. See, what happens is you got to get over this thing that goes on inside of us where we get caught up in these symbols and we forget that symbols only symbolize something else. See, what we need to be looking at is what is the something else that the symbol symbolizes. We need to be trying to figure that out. Who wants to get caught up in the symbol? You get caught up in the symbol, you're about to go insane.
I have a question. So, if the story is anthropomorphic from the snake, basically, and it talks, when they make the story to be like, wow, a talking snake, so why would one believe in that then?
I don't know, for the same reason one believes in a talking bush, probably.
It was a burning bush.
He was talking.
Well, and talking.
This is weird. Based on what you just asked, I can get to this point of saying, this is weird.
I think we're that lad. We in that talking burning bush.
So I don't have an argument with your question. I don't. I agree with your question, as a matter of fact.
What would that be like? Allegorical tales, metaphors, myths?
So that means that we need to actually go in and figure out what allegory is. We need to go in and figure out, as a matter of fact, if we can't figure that out, we might not be able to get into what the prophet is actually asking us to do. And now I'm not talking about Khalil Gibran. I'm talking about the story that he wrote.
My question would be with all of this, and I don't have any problems with it. Why would they do it? Why would it be late? The people, whoever it was that came together to do this collection, to tell this story.
Why would they do?
Why would they use anthropomorphic?
Because see, if you want to help a child to understand something, in a lot of cases, you have to speak to the child in what you perceive is a language the child might comprehend. As a matter of fact, because it really bothers me all the time when I hear adults talking to people with baby talk. They not talk to you baby talk. When they talk to you, they say, "Hey, she's so pretty." The little boy is so pretty. What? What? I mean, I know they do that with their poodles. I watch them on Facebook all the time. But, oh, they got a picture of a poodle over there, and the girl says, "Oh, ain't it so pretty?" And then they do the same thing with the children, though.
Yep. Mom did this
She
just
asked
to.
that question, and what I'm hearing you say, and I heard you say this before, that those were basically child's tales.
That's all it was. That's all it was. It was something that was being figured out in a way to present a story to a child, for a child to be able to comprehend the information that was, as a matter of fact, someone put up, I think it was you as a matter of fact, put up about an old African proverb. I didn't say nothing. On the Facebook. Now, it might have been you, might not have been you. But the proverb had to do with the fact that this particular group of people that came into Africa came in with some stories, and the Africans, the wise ones, the older ones, the elders, they tried to bring to the attention. Oh, was that you that put this thing?
No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and they tried to bring to everybody's attention, you know, those particular stories are what we teach our little children.
Yeah.
And that's all this is, some
That's what it
children's
said.
stories.
That's what it said. It says that we told those tales to our children, but as they become adults,
Correct.
we tell them the truth.
Well, we take them through a ritual around the age of 13 so that they have to face panic. That's their version of ride and go. You understand? Rites of passage. But they actually take them through the ritual and activity. Like over here, only thing anybody ever takes them through is the ritual, period. And never the passage. And that's weird, because if you take children through a rites of passage and all you take them through is the ritual, you're about to cause that young person to be literally insane. If they have the ritual without the passage, you're about to have some problems.
But the word allegory is in the Bible pertaining to one, I can't remember what.
Well, if the word allegory is in the Bible,
Yes, it is.
and that's good that it might be in there every now and then, I'll bet you it's in that dictionary.
I'm at allegory.
And what does it say about allegory?
It says figurative treatment of one subject under the guise of another. A presentation of an abstract or spiritual meaning under concrete or material form. A symbolic narrative.
Like an anthropomorphic story.
So there's another level, a layer of that. Then would it be safe to say that in certain cases the storyteller had to disguise that particular story at least?
Almost like the prophet.
Mhm.
Almost like the story that was trying to tell somebody how to find themselves. How to look to find themselves. But understand something. I think the Ravens, Edgar Allan Poe,
Yeah.
and there's all kinds of stories and poems and things that you can read. As a matter of fact, there's countless stories in the Bible that, and the Quran and the Bhagavad Gita that you could actually read and learn and come to understand, so that you could actually do this most magnificent of things. That is, learn about self.
There was a piece in the Prophet I remember reading 5 years ago, I guess, where it says, the children are not ours, or
Yeah.
not mine.
Name of his own children. They
Yeah.
come through you.
They just come through.
Yes.
And I thought that was
And
significant.
a lot of
at
the
that
words and stories that we get are just coming through the vehicle.
time.
It isn't like transmission comes through the film, the movie. You know, it's weird how drivers drive in the car outside. As soon as we get out of the car, there's no driver driving the car, the vehicle. Isn't that weird? That's weird, isn't it? You would not let your car start up and not have a driver, would you? Why would you let you start up and not have a driver? I'm just kind of curious about this. But in order to find that driver, you got to have some instructions about how to get in to find him.
Well, hold up, Mr. Black. I got to ask this now. So prior to that event beginning to happen, what the hell is going on with that with that human order thing that's
Right now, if we're studying human dynamics, we got a whole bunch of automobiles without drivers just round here driving recklessly through space. That's what's going on. Now understand what I'm saying. I hope everybody really gets this. And whoever does not get this, I'm not really that concerned that you ain't getting it. Do some work, and you'll get it. Ask a question, and I'll try to point. But what's real important is that we read Jonathan Livingston Seagull and we figure out what it is talking about relative to individual human dynamics. And then, once you actually go in and you do the work that allows you to comprehend what it's talking about, you now read Animal Farm. And now you see what this particular writer transmitted to all of us to give us some insights to let us try to understand how this collective thought process, collective psyche actually can work for you and actually can, in most cases, work against you. Now, in other words, nobody can tell me that what happened in Animal Farm has not happened multiple times in my life. In my life, during my lifetime. What that man was writing about before I was born, basically, what he wrote about in Animal Farm has happened a few times in my life. A few times. You know, I mean, personally, as well as some so-called collective. You know, so I know he wasn't far off.
and that has nothing to do with the supposed race.
Well, that's minor. This whole thought about race, but yeah, that's one of these human inventions. Race. Somebody. Wait a minute. You haven't been here coming that long, have you? You just started coming in. All right. Tell me, 25 years ago, what you thought of race. What you know race to be. 25 years ago, not today.
I thought race was
Yeah.
different in color.
Say it louder, don't mumble. Cause see, all of a sudden when that started coming out of your mouth, all of a sudden it started mumbling out, which means the brain I'm serious.
Yeah.
The brain causes that process to take place. And we see it all the time in our children, but we won't admit it in ourselves. I know whenever I'm doing it, I know what's happening. I'm saying, I'm getting ready to say something to you. Go ahead now, tell us what 25 years ago now.
25 years ago, I only saw black and white.
Race. It was had to do with the complexion, color of your skin. And they would be black, right? They wouldn't, why not?
She would be Indian.
She'd be Indian, an Indian. Okay.
Right. But yeah, she'd be black.
She'd be black, and she'd be an Indian.
Right.
Okay, now this is weird, because here's what's so weird about this. When the people who mistakenly said, that was the mistake, what was recorded that they said, that they had found the route to India, got over here, they called them what?
Indian.
But here's what nobody seems to want to understand. They were calling Indians black people. So if they call them Indians, they were calling them what? But you just said she'd be Indian. She wouldn't be black. This is going to get real confusing in a minute. Which means that 9 times out of 10, 25 years ago, you probably were kind of confused about race, right? Not really. Okay, you weren't confused about race. Even though you thought she would have been Indian, and she'd have been black. But she don't look black to me. Matter of fact, that hat on your head, is it black? That would be black. So how could she be black if that hat on his head is black? I'm curious.
Well, I think that's what I was taught.
I understand. So then that means there was some confusion going on. Whether we know it's confusion or not, that's another issue. Yes.
Dr. Black, we see that in our kids all the time. Black kids will say, Mom, I'm not black. I'm brown.
Until y'all beat them into understanding that, so either you brown, you black. You know? No, I don't mean you personally. I'm not accusing you personally.
No, I know that. I'm just saying as a whatever. I said,
As a group,
okay.
as a group, you know, that's back to this collective dynamics we were talking about. As a group, that's what y'all beat the kids into understanding that they race is black, even if they look like they Beckenwoods. They're black, right? You about to say something?
Yeah, when I was little, I was really fair skinned and I thought I was white.
Oh, you thought you were white.
Until somebody told
You
me.
sound like Frantz Fanon over there.
You're black. And that really confused me because, like she said, I'm not black. But then I was taught that's your association. That's how you classify yourself.
Now, you agree that there was some confusing time.
Yeah.
Now, here's what I want to know. With all this confusion going on with this group of people, this group of individuals, how is that group of individuals going to come up with any unity? Make me understand this. They're going to wish it up on us. Like, oh, you just going to unite and we're going to be all right. Now, at the same time, they're around here thinking all kind of contrary thoughts, one person to another, right? They think that the colors of their skins actually is what defines race. You're a young person. What used to define race for you? Skin color. No, wait, this is a young person. Now, see, there's enough information out here that would have stopped that by now, wouldn't it?
It is
The
an
majority.
It's gotten worse because we got a race inside of a race.
Which race is that?
You're light skinned, so you're a different race in the so-called black culture. You're a certain color, or you got a certain hair tone, or
Is that right?
red. Oh yeah.
Good hair.
I was discriminated just because I was light skinned.
Is that right?
Dark skinned girls.
And wait,
white
and you think that this just started with these new kids?
No, it was started back when I was a child.
So this has been going on all the time, all this confusion.
They called me white baby, that's why I thought I was white.
Well, you know, you also have to
What,
talk
United
about,
Confusion? Ain't that something?
about the
It got deeper
Riverside.
and deeper.
Brown?
Yeah, down in New Orleans, it was big. You had there was certain organizations that you couldn't get into if your complexion wasn't as light as the paper sack. Would be nailed to the
That's
door.
still going on. That's still going on. But now, wait a minute now. Don't none of that exist no more, does it?
Yes, it does.
Oh, it does. So now, we have to figure out how to truly learn about our individual selves.
It's like it's been suggested that the current superintendent was selected basically because of his
I read that.
his hair and his skin.
I read that. And the people who suggested that on Facebook was your radio announcers. So that means that your radio announcers, the people who would actually be your media, are going to transmit into your brains of thought, and you won't actually know where it's coming from. And then all of a sudden out here in the airways on the frequency, here's this thought going in that you're not going to understand how your children actually get these thoughts. But the point that I was really hoping to make is why it's so important to read Jonathan. As an individual, what are you maybe supposed to do according to the transmission that was being projected about this bird? In other words, what did he do as an individual that was different from the collective? What did he do?
He thought for himself.
He what? He was teaching himself how to think for himself. Okay, good. And in order to do that, he practiced all the time, right? He'd rather practice than eat, right? But yet, most of the people that I know, they don't want to practice. They don't want to do nothing. They don't want to do anything. They really don't want to practice. They don't want to do the charts. Isn't that right? They don't want to do the sounds. Isn't that right? Because why do I go do some sounds? What do you do some sounds for? So they don't want to practice. They don't want to do anything, right? Now he was willing to actually face the ridicule of his relatives in order to try to impress not only his relatives, but the people that he felt that he was relative to. In other words, his friends were relative to him. And he was willing to face all opposition in order to get it across to everybody how much better, how much more that everybody could be if every individual would just take it upon themselves to actually do something more than what's expected. You know what? That little anthropomorphic story probably was just as good of a story put together as anything that they could have put together about Krishna or Buddha or Jesus or anybody else that's ever, if in fact they've been on this planet. In other words, why aren't we just looking for something that can actually show us a way to do what it is that we might want to try to do for ourselves? Now, on the other hand, here's another story over here, Animal Farm, and it shows us how Stokely acted. Was in Stokely? No,
Kwame.
No, Kwame. But you know what I'm talking about. How he could actually insert himself into a situation, and this is a friend of mine, by the way, could insert himself into a situation, and before it's over with, after y'all have conquered the hill, he come in and suggested, well, we found and conquered that hill. You ever been to an animal farm? Wasn't it an animal farm? I mean, Napoleon was nowhere around, wasn't he? And after the snow, after the other ones had actually done all the work, he showed up, and he was smart enough to raise them little puppies, and to actually raise them to love him. And when they became big dogs, they became his police. They became his force. And then when he would change the writing up on the wall, or have the writing changed, everybody would say, wait a minute, that wasn't like that. Well, now, see, that's the amazing thing about reading. And you really have to learn how to read so you can discern when the writing changes. And you can discern this for yourself when you really learn how to read. You know, so but anyway, if we really look at Animal Farm, we might see how we have been behaving as a collective. And you know what really might be frightening is if we realize that if Orson Welles could write,
George Orwell.
George Orwell could write that so well, you know what, he must have gone through this back then. You know, so that means there were some people going through this back then. And it means I can see what I've gone through in my lifetime based on his illustration. You know, what he wrote was actually something that could illuminate an event for me well enough for me to see maybe what I better beware of. And I better beware of this whole collective dynamic in that way. I'm not saying that people should not form a dynamic collective. As a matter of fact, I hope for a dynamic collective to actually take place. But guess what you gotta get in order to get a dynamic collective? That's right. If you do not get individuals that have the capacity in the first place, you aren't ever going to get a dynamic collective. And if you do, and if one individual comes up out of the collective, one that actually is capable, then that one is going to be 9 times out of 10 dictatorial. That one is going to be tyrannical. That one is going to be Napoleon. In other words, me personally, what I'm hoping for is that all of them are going to be good at this. Not just one, all of them. But for some reason, most of the adults I know, they're already saying what he can't do. They're already telling me what he can't do. And they're already suggesting that these kids can't do this. Now, I don't think that. I actually think that this child here can do anything she wants to do. As a matter of fact, I'm saying, I asked her in class the other day to put something up on the site, Now, I can barely see. I couldn't tell her how to do nothing. She went up there, all of them, they figured this out. I didn't ask that one over there, what's that one over there? Hey, that's you, right? I done asked her 2 or 3 times to do some stuff that I know only the man in the moon can do. And she got it done. You know why she got it done? Now, I don't know if she thought I could do it. But if she did, that's her assumption. Yeah.
You did tell her she could.
That's right. And she managed to do some stuff that matter of fact, what I do a lot of times, I've been doing this for years. What I will do is I'll take one of my little ones that have been coming through this and learning, and I'll get them to accomplish something that it is that I'm after and I want to know. And then I'll get them to show me what they do. And guess what? That will be done. We got this done. But understand something. The only reason that they can accomplish this is because I have never, at any point, suggested to them what they cannot do. As a matter of fact, I'm not only suggesting what they can do, I'm trying to show them some angles toward how to do it. And you know what? They seem to pick it up so easily. Why is it that adults, when you're trying to explain to adults about things, that everything's a problem? I can't do that. I can't understand that. I don't know that. It can't be like that. Why not? Is anyone here aware of what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So the reason that I asked everyone to read Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and like I said, I would like to hear from all of you and have a discussion about what you're getting out of it. Have you read Jonathan yet? So I really want her to come tonight because I wanted her to actually understand as much as I want you to read the prophet. And I really want you to do that other exercise that I'm asking everyone to do with As a Man Thinks. You all right? I want you to do that, but I need you to read Jonathan. I hear you. That's right. See, because if you do all this other stuff, and you figure everything about the twilight morning and the dawn that actually opened up the illumination, but you have not figured out the basics, the foundational, preliminary stuff that we need to figure out. Guess what? In the end, all we got is another argument. We don't have nothing. So in other words, you can read all about how the ancient Africans. Matter of fact, I was reading not so long ago an argument about how the ancient Africans are indigenous in South America. Were you familiar with that argument?
Kind of.
So, huh?
Yes.
Yes. Well, good. Now here's the thing I'm after. How can we prove it?
The structures.
What? Oh, I know about those stone heads. Now I also know about all the arguments.
But you can't prove that it comes from Africa first. Or at
You
least
can't prove that. Not the structures, not the Olmec structures you're talking about. Now, how can we prove it?
What?
That the ancient Africans are indigenous in South America.
Can't.